Okay, I love it. We are coming to the end of Hebrews, and as I pointed out, I want to remind you. Okay, when we write letters, we end letters. We start letters with triviality. We end letters with triviality. It costs way too much money to do that in this era. So we've got to recognize that literature, especially letters, in the Victorian era, when they finally could buy paper for like a penny a piece, you could write as long a missives and tomes as you wanted to. But when a book or a scroll costs the same as a 40-acre farm, you're not going to get away with that. So in spite of the fact that our translators try to make everything seem like it's hugs and kisses and love and dovey at the end, it's not at all. It is not a wrap-up. It is still a logos to telos that's driving through, but that logos to telos, well, we'll see how it connects to itself. Now, the words of the day, I don't know if we've had many, if we've done these a little bit before, but Philadelphia. The city, right? Philadelphia. Philadelphia. It's pretty interesting. Phila is basically one of the Greek words for love. There is no Greek word that is anything close to what we would call love. Not even the close of close. Phila is supposed to be friend love, right? Friend, what does it say specifically? Fond, friendly, neighbor. No, it's not at all. Philos. Philos means brotherly love of shield warriors. And it doesn't mean anything homosexual or anything untoward at all. A shield warrior was your best buddy in life, because in Bida, it's called a Bida culture. We Anglo-Saxons are a Bida culture. Germans are a Bida culture. Norwegians are a Bida culture. The Greeks are a Bida culture. I don't know about the Latin nations, but I suspect they may be. The French, Spanish. They're not as characteristic. The reason they call it Bida cultures is because they have Bida. Bida is a pronoun that means two. We have it. It's the only Bida pronoun left in English. It's both. Yeah, both.
That's what Bida means in German.
Bida means both. The Bida pronoun, German doesn't have Bida other than that pronoun either. I think that's the only Bida pronoun. You know how we say I, right? I, we, first person, second person, you, third person, he, she, right? The thing is that in a Bida culture, there is also a D, there's two. And the reason there's two is not because it's man and woman. That's why it doesn't exist today, is because in a warrior culture, in a Bida culture, you have to have your buddy. If you don't have your buddy, okay, no man is an island, right? We've lost this concept. All the survival movies and all the survival stuff, you got one guy, right? That's not the way it works. If you want to survive, you need two. Today we think man and woman, and also we're led to believe that, men and women are the same and they're the same strength and abilities, which is really a cool and fun thing, but it's not true at all. So apparently human cultures especially have this Bida culture thing going. That's where the word philos comes from. So it literally means my shield brother or shield warrior, and it's the love between a shield warrior. By the way, it is the most powerful love there is in Greek thought. Why?
Keeps you from dying.
Keeps you alive.
Well, not only does it keep you alive, but you're...
Like men's minds were considered greater than women's, let's just be honest, and they thought, the mental connection was stronger as well.
No, I don't agree with that at all. The reason is because you're willing to die. You are willing to die for that guy. Right? But what he said is correct. There is no word equivalent for men and women because in their culture, a man would not be willing to die for a woman. Uh-oh. Now, wait a second. What about Helen of Troy? I'm just saying, were they willing to die for a woman?
Yeah.
Why? What love, what kind of love were they showing? You know what it is.
It's more like love for country, wasn't it?
No, not really. They don't have a word for love for country. Who's prominent in the Helen of Troy stories?
Helen.
Well, not just Helen. Who made the day for everything? Who in the Odyssey, in the Iliad, who turned the day for everything? Who made everything happen in the Iliad? The gods. They were fated, right? But the gods made everything happen. He went to Achilles, right? Achilles was, prepared for the Trojan Wars from the beginning by being made immortal except for his heel. Everything revolved around the gods. The reason they went to get Helen is probably the closest you're going to get to the vision of agape love in Greek thought, because it's not philos. Philos is the love you're willing to die for your shieldmate. That's why it's so powerful. And it's not a negative, Today, though, and that's, the difference in the New Testament, for example, Mysterion concept of the New Testament is all are equal. Male, female, slave, free. Which means that philos, in a Christian sense, would apply to
Us all.
all
We're
people.
all brothers and sisters.
Yeah, because there's no difference, which is a total change in Greek thought. The other thing is Delphia. Delphos, Adelphia. It's Adelphia. It's basically brothers of the same womb. Or specifically, it comes from Adelphos, which means Delphos, the womb. Delphi means the womb of the world. And basically, Philadelphia, we translate as filial affection, but it's not. It's fraternal affection. It really means the love, the willingness of one human to be willing to die for another. That's the type of love that it means in Greek thought. Here's another filo word, Philoz, or X, Z, it's a Z sound, Enias, Philoxenius, Philo, same word, Zenius. Now, I'm not sure I completely agree with the translation, what we've translated. Philos, Philos is a lot deeper than your neighbor or, friendship or whatever. It's huge depth of love. The xenia means a foreigner. They say fond of guests. Philoxenia meaning xenos, meaning love or fondness for guests. Fondness, but it's really not. It's fondness for foreign, and it's not fondness. It's willingness to die. Now, you say, well, how would that be? Okay. We live in a world that's very interesting and different world than the past. So let's look at the past. Number one, when I approached you in the ancient world, all right, we still reflect the things. What is the first thing you did? Approaching you, what did I do? First thing I did.
Show that you're disarmed.
Yeah, I put up my hand. I show him disarmed. We shake hands. That's the greeting. We've got that greeting. When you're military, you salute because you are. You're armed. Yeah, you're armed and you're ready to go. This means that this is. Yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm going to get you, right? This means I'm disarmed. Now, hopefully, like I said, what was it? The Japanese do both hands? When they hand you anything with both hands?
Like the hands down here, here, or like sometimes.
You're showing your hands. Because the first thing you do in ancient cultures is you show that you're disarmed, because that means I'm not going to kill you, all right? The next thing you do is, what do? Okay, I'm welcoming you into my house, my home. What do I do? We don't do it today.
Embrace?
No, never touch you. I provide you with bread and salt. What's bread and salt do? If you eat bread, if I feed you, you're part of my household. The reason I give you bread and salt is the most expensive commodity that you could give in the ancient world. You go back and look at Sir Walter Scott. Sir Walter Scott was really in tune with his times, but he was writing about, he's one of the first historical writers. He has all kinds of really cool stuff. Anglo-Saxon though, bread and salt. And the other thing Anglo-Saxons did, which is our culture, we don't teach Anglo-Saxon culture, right? We teach every other culture in the world, it seems like, but not Anglo-Saxon culture. They would do foot washing. Bread, salt, foot washing. They're honoring their guests. In the ancient world, okay, I'm disarmed, I give you bread, you're part of my household. I give you salt, I'm welcoming you. I wash your feet. I am telling you what? Even though you're inside my house, I will not harm you. I'm not going to kill you. It's called an oath. It's an oath, and yes, sir.
Does that mean that your guest is under your protection?
Yes.
That's a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
Big thing.
And the only way, if you read ancient literature, not ancient, it can't be that ancient, but literature from about those periods, from people that are closer to those periods, you'll see this act out. Ivanhoe. There's a bunch of stuff that Walter Scott wrote. He was really into explaining cultural kind of things within the context of his writing, his fictional writing. But even if you don't, you go back and look at the rituals, and almost like, for example, Middle Eastern rituals. The same things, I don't know if they do it today. I've never had it been done to me today, but it was not unusual not that long ago. We were trained in this, in my training for special missions stuff, that when you were offered usually tea or bread or whatever you were offered in an Oriental home, Middle Eastern, Oriental type home, you never, ever do not accept it. Because that is the most offensive thing you pretty much can ever do. So, just say it. So think about this. Philoxenius means that you are willing to take them under your protection, and you are willing to die for them. And you see this, especially like I said, if you look back historically, there were truces. Sometimes they show it on TV, although I think the TV and the people that write those things, their knowledge of history is about like the knowledge of maybe a 16-year-old child's knowledge of history, who hasn't had a chance to read a lot. It's just no knowledge at all. It's like, they have people sitting. Okay, how many people sat in the ancient world? Kings maybe, right? But no one sat, because you were a slave if you sat. You always laid to table. You laid, but how many movies have, and I'm sorry, but Leonardo da Vinci's Jesus, Last Supper, yeah, that happened to be a historical motif set in the modern era, which is 90% of our historical movies and writings, right? Historical motifs set in the modern era. So in real history, these things are what they are. So we are now entering, let's look at this, Philadelphia. As I said, we are now entering chapter 13, the last verse in chapter 12. The NIV says it's, for our God is a consuming fire, but we translate it, assigning a reason, our God consumes utterly the fire of Zeus. And that is totally in context within the other part of the verse, because it was showing that God has power over the gods of the Serapis and Zeus Serapis and the gods of Alexandria. I didn't complete this because this is some have said this is a quote from Deuteronomy 4:24. And in Deuteronomy 4:24, I'm not going to read the whole rabbinic context, but if you look back, 23 says, "Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden." Does that sound like what we were studying or reading in 12? Let me read that to you again. This is 23. "Be careful not to forget the covenant of the Lord your God that he made with you. Do not make for yourselves an idol in the form of anything the Lord your God has forbidden." That was what we translated the Hebrew to be. Don't listen to oracles. Don't make sacrifices. That's what they were saying. This is exact, like I said, rabbinic context. And then 24, "For the Lord your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God." Let's see, maybe the last will be good. This is interesting. "After you have had children and grandchildren and have lived in the land a long time, if you then become corrupt and make any kind of idol, doing evil in the eyes of the Lord your God and provoking him to anger, I call heaven and earth as witness against you in this day that you will quickly perish in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. You will not live there long, but will certainly be destroyed." As I tell you, all this is rabbinic context. So the minute you see something that applies either in context within a quote or an allusion, go back and read the whole thing, because every piece applies directly to what the writers were telling you about. Now, let's see how it fits. Okay, I was reviewing my information, some information not too long ago. Unless I've studied it, it's easy to forget dates and numbers. I think I told you the first chapters came around 800, I believe, AD. The first verses came around 1200 to 1500 AD. And so chapters are pretty late. Verses are really late, okay, in additions. So do you think there's a chance they could have got them wrong? There's no punctuation, there's no capitals, there's no periods, there's no spaces between the words. Yeah, so the last thing we had in 12 was our God's fire consumes Zeus, or what would I say? Let's see. Assigning a reason, our God consumes utterly the fire of Zeus, meaning God Theos, God, Jehovah, is more powerful than all the Greek gods and all the Egyptian gods and all the gods. 13. Here's 13. Here's the NIV. "Keep on loving each other as brothers." Now, first of all, does anyone think that what the NIV said, our God is a consuming fire, does anyone think that that's way out of context without looking at it from the Greek? I mean, it's like our weather forecast that we had before, right? Stormy and weather, right? And then we saw it doesn't have anything to do with weather. It's just like that. All of a sudden you're running along and all of a sudden it says, our God is a consuming fire. Assigning a reason our God consumes utterly the fire of Zeus makes sense totally in context. Now we get this. Keep on loving each other as brothers. So just before that it says our God is a consuming fire. And the next one it says keep on loving each other as brothers. Does anyone else see a little problem with this? All right, let's see what the Greek says, right? Number one, it's missing an article. The first word in this statement is an article, the, ho. Ho, mino, to stay. Mino, to stay. Philadelphia, the affection for his shield brother. Continue, mino. Okay? Literally, the fraternal affection, the love of shield brother to stay. Translation, the love of a shield warrior remains. Okay, this is pretty easy. Assigning a reason our God consumes utterly the fire of Zeus. The love of a shield warrior remains. What did he just tell us?
God is our shield brother?
Well, I like that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, willing to die for you?
Not only, well, I don't disagree. I like that, but that's not exactly the article or the point specifically of that thing. The point is that God consumes the gods But what's left over?
The source of love and self-sacrifice is Him, God.
Well, God burns up all the other gods, but who's left? Us. The love of a shield warrior, and remember, it's a mysterion concept. So men, women, slave, free are all shield warriors, right? Of a shield brother remains. So even though God consumes all of the gods and all of the whole point of chapter 12 wasn't just the gods. It was about arguments and logic and about, all the pagan ideas, the oracles, etc. It says and this isn't the end, this is just a transition, but it says that God consumes all of that. But what's left? The love of the shield warriors. Because the chapter before was about this. Thaddeus. It's about training. So the whole chapter 12 was about training. What are you training to be in Greek thought?
Christian warriors for God.
Well, a shield warrior, right? In a Greek sense, totally shield warrior. In our sense, we are trained to be warriors for God, right? All of us. And so therefore, we're part of an ecclesia. Remember the word ecclesia was used just before? Ecclesia is what? A bunch of shield warriors, right? We are called out ones. We are like the Athenian democracy. And I shouldn't say they are, okay? If you want to put it in a modern context, you can put it in a modern context. But within the historical context, the writer's telling you that we're all shield warriors. We're all part of the ecclesia. We are training. We are training in pistis. We're training in these ideas. And now, he says, after God consumes all of the gods and all the dumb ideas and all the other stuff. And what's left over? The shield warriors who have trained. I'll draw the picture, okay? The picture that we have, okay, here's...
You may need a new marker.
I might need a new marker. Or a black marker. I got a new marker. I got new markers. I just got to find the right ones, right? Okay, here's the plenum of everything. This is Greek thought. And here is Theos. Theos, God. Jehovah God. He is outside of the cosmos. The cosmos is that which is created. Cosmos. That's what is created. Within the cosmos is the philosophia. Philosophia, that which can be known. And within the philosophia is the gay. The gay is the known world, the obvious world. In our tome, in our text, in our letter and document, basically in the philosophia, you have the gay, you have the world, which you call the gay, and outside the gay is the Oranos, right? The Oranos, the sky. Where does it say God is? Where are we trying to? The Epi-Oranos. Epi-Oranos. The Epi-Oranos is the plenum of everything. It's basically, or you could, probably a better way to say it, it's where God is, but it basically includes the cosmos and everything else. In other words, when God comes and, I need my red, right? When God comes and he goes, consumes it all, right? What's left? The shield warriors, those who train, those who are pistis, persuaded. That's what's left. So, I just, okay, maybe they think that we would not understand it within a cultural context, so I'll give them that credit, but I think it's pretty interesting how this is really different. The 2, remember that 2? You'll hear today in it's in the prayers today, but it comes right out of this. 2, here's the NIV. Do not forget to entertain strangers, for by doing so, some people have entertained angels without knowing it. Let's see what it says in the Greek. The B is added. Not is me, not, forgetful. Epi lanthanomai, to lose out of mind. to entertain strangers. Philonexia. Hospitalness. Love of shield brothers. Love of foreign shield brothers. For gar, assigning a reason thereby. Dia tauta. Through this. Some of any persons or object, have entertained xenux, to be a host, passively or a guest. Angelus, unawares. Lanthano, to accept, it's supposed, escape, what? No, it's to escape notice. Okay, so, what do we know an angelos is? What's an angelos?
Messenger.
It's a messenger. It's not an angel. Is there any context here about angels? Let's see, literally. It says, not to lose out of mind hospitalness. Dear love of shield brothers, of foreign shield lovers. Assigning a reason through this some of any person or object to be a host, passively a guest, messengers to escape notice. So here's a translation. Don't forget to be hospitable to foreign shield warriors. Assigning a reason through this some have entertained unnoticed messengers. I'll read that again. This is a translation. Don't forget to be hospitable to foreign shield warriors. Assigning a reason through this some have entertained unnoticed messengers. There's no angels in this. You know, there is an Old Testament, and I've got an Old Testament, quote or allusion to this. That's not their point. They're not worried that they turned away angels. What are they worried about?
Well, we talked about, at
fellow-
the beginning of Hebrews, we talked about missionaries coming, or messengers coming.
Yeah. Your shield, what? Go ahead.
Within this time, I don't know, John, the 2nd, 3rd John also, I mean, wasn't that the big cultural times, make sure that these people are taken care of and so.
Well, not only that, it falls into Didache. You know, we don't have the Didache in the New Testament documents. The Didache is absorbed into all of our stuff, and we have even hymns from the Didache. But the Didache, one of the big points of the Didache is to, when the missionaries, the trained shield warriors of your faith, Tinodos, come around, what are you supposed to do?
Welcome them.
Welcome in, yeah. As a matter of fact, Paul, they had this continual problem. The continual problem was, it's not like they had petty squabbles, but we know they did. There was the squabble between the, Paulian ideas and Peter's and the Council of Jerusalem's ideas, right? Matter of fact, Paul even called them on it. You remember? Peter would not associate with the Gentile Christians, Gentile Tinodos, and Paul said, what are you doing? Right? So the point is this. The whole point of 12 was to tell you about how to train to be a shield warrior for Christ, for Jesus Christ. And now it's talking about, it says, okay, the love of shield warriors remain, even though God destroys all the gods and other stuff within their culture, the logic of their ideas and stuff, that what you've trained in remains. And then it goes, don't forget to be hospitable to foreign shield warriors. Assigning a reason through this, some have entertained unnoticed messengers. The point is, okay, when we come to our ecclesia, to our kurios, right, to our church, we have a whole bunch of documents. I have them right here. Of course, I have Greek too over here, but I have documents, right? This is the Old Testament, New Testament. What did they have?
The Old Testament.
Maybe, yeah. Well, how much did it cost to own the Old Testament scrolls?
Oh.
Right? Everybody memorized it, right? If you read it, you were memorizing it, right? So a lot of them knew Septuagint. In fact, they loved Septuagint because it was in Greek and they could all read it, right? They could have some access to it. But each scroll costs the same as a 40-acre farm. How many scrolls are there? 63, right? The point is, they were always looking for more and information. This was, we are lucky. Well, I guess, I think we're lucky. We've thought about this stuff for 2,000 years and haven't come to an agreement, but we have documents in Greek. Unfortunately, I think a lot of it's because we read it in other languages and we get real problems because translations are hard. But we have the documents. We have 2,000 years of thinking about this stuff, right? They didn't. And so they are listening with their ears and their minds, suke, right? Suke? And they are making decisions. But what do they want?
Like the letters of the apostles were so precious that went around in all the epistles.
What you said is beautiful. The letters are so precious. Look at what we have. This would take you years to read. In the ancient world, they had fragments and pieces, and they had documents that were memorized, right? They memorized the documents, those who could read. But they were. Do you wonder that in the Victorian era, people were so. All they had at home was the Bible and Fox's Book of Martyrs, and now they had penny novels? I can go buy a novel for a penny? It was 10 pages, and you had to buy, $1's worth to get all of the chapters. But talk about amazing, In that era, they were longing for this information. So that's why it's saying, some have entertained unnoticed messengers. Because remember at the beginning, what was the thing they told them to do at the beginning of Hebrews?
Welcome messengers, look for them, listen.
Yeah. They didn't worry that it would mess up your faith. They hoped that it would do two things. Number one, if you got messengers that are trained shield warriors, you're going to learn. On the other hand, if you got messengers that are not as well trained shield warriors, what's going to happen?
They might learn from you.
They're going to learn. Oh yeah, this is it. This is the symposium idea of the Greeks. When we go to a symposium, we're going to a symposium to learn. You discuss things, you bring information up. It's what we do. I go to symposiums all the time for scientific stuff, right? And so we hear papers and we discuss papers. We have groups that talk about papers and talk about procedures and stuff. This is exactly what they're trying to get them to do. And to us, it's non-plus. Maybe, I suspect this is not unusual to any of you because you're all well-versed and well-trained Greek-type cultural people. It's what you're used to in your culture. In their culture, they were not. They're animist, pantheonic, pagan, and they got Mysterion mixed in there. And they are all believing in their heart of hearts in fate and spirits moving the world. They have no concept of science the way we do. It's not because they're dumb. It's because it's culturally where they stand. And so...
Superstitions, looking at them today, it's like...
Well, we have them.
Right, but...
Right?
They lived by them.
They lived by them. They kill people because of them.
Yeah.
Right? They kill witches, because they were afraid the witches might have some power. We are talking about a whole change of thought. Sarx, Suke, PSU, Uke, and Pneuma. This is a huge change of thought that is throughout the New Testament documents. That you are supposed to think. Think. Thinking is what completely changes the world. Let me see. I gotta see. I know I had a quote from something. There's a couple of examples. I didn't put them down. There are no direct quotes, but there are analogies or allusions. For example, remember that we've had it in Hebrews. Abraham, right? Abraham and Sarah. Abram had the visitors, and we presume, it doesn't say, but we presume they were Christ and a couple of angels, right? They were hanging around. Maybe they're Gabriel and Michael, I don't know. But they came, right? But did they entertain angels unaware?
No, they knew it was them. They knew they were.
Yeah, I think this is totally bogus. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't think they're angels unaware wandering around trying to come into your house to say hi to you. I think it's much more concrete in Greek, that the Greek, they don't care about angels. What they really care about is people. If you have a conversation with an angel, well, number one, I write books about this, okay, and I write fiction. And whenever an angel comes to you, it is not, what does an angel always say? Don't be afraid. And then the next thing is something that's going to turn your life around so bad that your life will never, ever, ever be the same, right? That's what always happens. Now, I think that in my books, when demons come to you, they say, be very afraid, right? So a demon, you know them because they'll come to you and they'll say, be very afraid. But an angel will say, don't be afraid. But then something is going to happen that you may or may not really enjoy, right? So that's the reason they say that. Plus, I think they probably look pretty hagios.
Formidable, yeah.
Hagios, right? The Greek hagios, awful things, awful. You know, Greek thought. In any case, this is not about angels. It is totally concrete and it fits within the context. Let's go on to 3. Remember those in prison as if you were their fellow prisoners, and those who are mistreated as if you yourselves were suffering. All right, let's see what it says. If this was a close of a normal English letter, this would probably make sense, but it's the close of a Greek letter and it doesn't. Remember, mimesko, to remind them that, it's not them, that's thee, R is added in bonds, desminos, a captive, as bound. As host, which how, bound with, sunideo, to bind with them, is added, and is added, them which is ho, it's not them which. They keep adding a bunch of pronouns and prepositions and you know, stuff that's like, look, the Greek has plenty of words for this, why do you keep adding these words? Suffer adversity, to maltreat, I left off the Greek in that. As, host, which how, being on, being is on, it's literally being. It's the present participle verb. Yourselves, autos. And the reason I said, you know, it's literally the present participle verb, which we know if you have a present participle verb in Greek means it's important, okay? Yourselves, autos, also kai. It's not also, it's and. In, the is added, soma, sark suke panuma. So, sark suke panuma, the soma. Here it is in a literal translation. To remind the captives is bound, which how to bind with thee to maltreat, which how being a present participle verb, yourselves and in body. Sark suke panuma. So, okay, we need a little translation for this. Remind the captives who are bound with maltreatment, who being yourselves. Let me read that again. Remind the captives who are bound with the maltreatment, who being yourselves, and in your body, sark, suk, and panuma. Who are the prisoners? They are. They're the prisoners. It's not saying, remember the prisoners, remember the captives. It's saying, you are the captives. This is a direct point coming from the previous points, right? So it says, God is a consuming fire. That was all the previous pretty much 12 wrapped into one. God consumes the fire of Zeus. He's over everything. Then it says, the love of a shield warrior remains. And then it tells you, okay, then it tells you, don't forget to be hospitable to foreign shield warriors, the son of your reason. Through this, some have entertained unnoticed messengers, because they want to continue training. And then it says, remind the captives who are bound with the maltreatment, who being yourselves, and in your body. The problem is, what is binding them? What is the thing they need to be trained out of that 12 talks about the whole time? I'll remind you. What were they doing in Jerusalem every day for Jesus Christ's sake?
The sacrifices.
They were doing the Thanksgiving sacrifice and all the sacrificial system. Jerusalem was destroyed. They went down to I posit Alexandria. I think we've proved beyond a shadow of doubt it's Alexandria. They went to Alexandria, but wherever they went, we know in Alexandria there's a temple. There's a temple to Jehovah, and they were doing sacrifices in that temple. So the people are captives and slaves in their bodies and minds and souls to
The law.
the law and sacrifice, right? And so the whole tome of Hebrews is telling them, don't participate in the sacrifices. Don't participate in the Jewish sacrifices. Don't participate in the Greek sacrifices. Don't participate in the Egyptian sacrifices. Don't participate in the Roman sacrifices. Your job is to train as shield warriors so that you can promote the ideas of Teen Hodos, and we're going to see exactly to whom. Let's go to 4. Oh, 4, it really hits in 5, but please keep that in mind. So you get, 5, 6, 6, whatever. Let's see how this fits together. This is really interesting. Okay, it just told you that you are captives in your body. So it's going to say this. This is the NIV. Marriage should be honored by all, and the marriage bed kept pure, for God will judge the adulterer and all the sexually immoral. So then it says, this is the Greek. Gamos, nuptials. It's gamos, nuptials. In other words, literally sexual activity. Is added, honorable. Timios, valuable. In, all pas. It's all, everything. And kai, the kiote, the couch, undefiled. Amnietos, unsoiled. But assigning a reason, whoremongers, porneos, a male prostitute, and adulterers, mochaios, a male paramour, God will judge. God will krino, will to distinguish. So here's what it says, a literal translations. Nuptials valuable in all, and the couch unsoiled, assigning a reason, male prostitutes and male paramours, God to distinguish. So the translation of this is, sex within marriage is valuable for all. And the couch, literally a couch in Greek means the male sperm, unsoiled. Assigning a reason, male prostitutes and male paramours, God will single out to judge. Okay, we already heard about porneos and mochaios before in Hebrews. Do you remember? The big deal with their ideas culturally, this is totally within a sexual context. But before they put us porneos and mochaios in a cultural context. Do you remember what the cultural context was? Well, porneos isn't just both of these terms. A porneos, a male paramour is a male paramour. That basically is to women, the male prostitutes to men. A porneros is any man who basically is willing to sell out his thoughts and body for another. So if I'm going to a symposium and I say, hey Brett, I'm going to give you $10 to support my position. Ooh, you're a porneros, right? Now you can also be selling your body. On the other hand, and by the way, ladies, he's given you the lady thing. Male paramours is a mochaios. So a male paramour, the view of their culture is women are supposed to be protected, right, from the males that are trying to attack them. But a male paramour is someone that you are inviting in. And we saw this also before in Hebrews 12. So specifically, and I think the Catholic Church ought to probably review this a little bit because it's interesting that it says specifically to the Hebrews this very concept. I'll read again. Sex within marriage is valuable to all, and the couch unsoiled, assigning a reason, male prostitutes and male paramours, God will single out to judge. So the context of this is, however, the context is, going back to 3. Remind the captives who are bound with the maltreatment and being yourselves in your body. So in other words, what is one of the ways they're bound?
Sexual immorality.
Yeah, well, 2 kinds. There's 2 kinds. They're bound in sexual immorality, but according to this, there's something even worse happening. Remember Paul wrote about it too? If you made a vow to a woman that there was something going on, the Corinthians, I think it's Corinthians, right? And remember Paul was talking about making a vow of not having sex but being married to a woman. You remember that? I didn't write it down, but it's in, I believe it's in Corinthians, where they were having a problem where Paul says that if you feel sexual urges to your partner that you are with, the person that you are, supposed to go ahead and have sex, The thing is that what they've done is, we know this happened, right? Asceticism was happening. And the asceticism of the church, matter of fact, we see it right now. The Catholic Church doesn't allow priests to marry and have children, marry, which we think may be causing a problem within their church community. The thing is that they were doing the same thing. Why were they doing this? What is the big deal about this sexual thing? You got a couple of reasons for this.
It's Corinthians 7.
Yeah, can you read that?
It is good for a man not to have, for now for matters that you know that it's good for a man not to have sexual relations with a woman. But since sexual immorality is occurring, each man should have sexual relations with his own wife, and each woman with her own husband. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife, and likewise the wife to her husband. And they should not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent for a time.
Remember I told you, there's a huge conflict in the world right now, in their world.
It says you have to come,
And
then come together again so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control.
The huge conflict is between Pauline, and it's not so great that it's like, I don't think it's dividing the church, but Paul preached you could eat meat sacrificed to idols, and he encouraged the communion, the Seder, right, to be meat, and to be that meat, right? The Apostolic Council said what? Don't eat meat sacrificed to idols. Paul said it's better for a man not to have sex with a woman. The Apostolic Council said it's okay. The Hebraic writers are reminding them because they have stated they are captives in their mind and bodies. Now, I don't think they're directly opposing Paul, or they would intentionally do that. Paul's been dead for 20 years, since 55. So the big deal here is these ideas have influenced teen hodos. The other problem is, how are you going to have sex when you ain't got no mikvos? Right? The mikvahs? They destroyed the mikvahs, and now, how do you've got rabbis that are in Alexandria, and they can design mikvahs, but a woman is not supposed to have sex until, after she's had her monthly thing, until she's had the mikvah, right? She's supposed to go through the am I saying the right word? The baptismal thing of the Jews, right? The men are not, so every time a man has, male emission, he's supposed to do the same thing. Do you notice what it said in this last verse? Let's see, have we got it right here? The last verse. Sex within marriage is valuable for all, and the couch, literally the word couch in Greek means male sperm. The word they use, kotos. Unsoiled, assigning a reason to male prostitutes and male paramours, God will single out to judge. In other words, they're giving them latitude. Do you see what the latitude they're giving them? In other words, they're saying you don't have to have the mikvah to basically continue with sexual activity, which really frees them because they got issues. There are issues going on culturally that are very difficult for them to solve, right? And the writers are trying to help them. 5. This is interesting too. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. This really is out of context, isn't it? Let's see what it says in the Greek. Let yours added. Conversation, this I'm doing the King James, a turn. It's not conversation, a turn. B is added without covetousness. It's a philargos, unavarice, not fond of silver money. And B is added, content, archeo, to ward off. To ward off. With such things is not with such things. It's ho, it's the. Boy, they keep adding all these prepositional phrases, as they wish. As ye have, perimi, to be near, for gar, signing a reason, he autos himself hath said, ero, to utter. I will, and this is a quote, I will is added implied, never, me, not at all, leave, anime, to leave up thee, literally thee, nor ode omi, not however, not at all, forsake, eg katalipo, to leave behind in some place thee. All right, let's see what it says. Here is the literal. Literal's probably not much better than that, but it's okay. A turn unavariceness, not fond of silver money, to ward off thee to be near, assigning a reason himself to utter, not at all to keep up thee, not however, not at all to leave behind in some place thee. All right. What does it mean? Okay. In Greek, a turn is a style. So it says literally, a style unavariceness. In other words, a style that is not with the love of money. A style, you know what that means, right? Some people, you immediately see him walk in the room and you go, he's got gold chains and a $5,000 suit and alligator shoes and, right? That is a avarice style. It's, so a style, so in other words, if you're rich, you got money, don't go walking around with purple robes looking like you're,
Be a dandy.
not be a dandy, yeah. It says, a style unavarice wards off the temptations of things close at hand. A style unavarice wards off, okay, remember what the logos of this is? The logos is, logos is in 3. Remind the captives who are bound with the maltreatment of being yourselves and in your body. So number 1, it talks about sexual. It talks about, it talks about marriage and sexual. It talks about free of money now. It says, a style unavarice wards off the temptations of things. So therefore you will not be bound, right? You will be unbound if you are not acting this way. Assigning a reason he himself uttered, never ever will I let up on you, never, never, ever, this is the Greek, never, never, ever will I leave you behind in some place. This is an answer to the Egyptians, right? What did the Egyptians do? Do you guys know?
Well, they put their money in to go to heaven, right? And the thingies.
Old
whatever.
tombs and things.
Yeah.
They accumulated all their stuff for what purpose?
To pay off the dead so they could get into wherever.
Take with them to that.
To take with them to the afterlife. Yeah, and to pay off the, well, if you want to say pay off the debt, that's okay, but they were doing it so that they, okay,
Who's the guy that?
in my life, I'm a Egyptian guy. Yeah, I got this really cool sofa, but I'm not going to sit on it because it's for my afterlife. Yeah, so they accumulated all this stuff so they could put it in the tombs. And then, well, the tomb robbers would come in and have a heyday and probably resell it to their, relatives. The big deal is, though, that was their whole existence. So this is an answer to how are they bound? They're bound because they're bound to this concept or idea, right? So it's about Teen Hodos also, because when they left Jerusalem to come to Alexandria, what did they do with their stuff? You think they carried it in a covered wagon?
Yeah, not very much. They didn't do very much.
All that cool stuff, the books, the scrolls, the money, the furniture, we know that it's all super valuable in that era. What did they do? They left in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So now they're in Alexandria, and what do they want?
Stuff.
Stuff. Yeah, I want some stuff, right? And the writers are not telling them not to get any stuff. They told you at the beginning, a style unavarice wards off temptations of things close at hand. So assigning a reason he himself uttered, never ever will I let up on you, never ever will I leave you behind in some place. In other words, all the stuff you left behind, don't worry about it, right? Because I'm going to make sure you have what you need. It also directly opposes that Egyptian message. The Egyptian message is, the more stuff I got now, the more stuff I got when I die. And it's like, Dude, that's kind of gross, but you know, that was what they believed with all their heart, souls, and minds, right? They put all their money into that. So the authors are trying to give us, and then, you know, this quote is from Deuteronomy 31, and from Joshua, it's Joshua 1:5. I'm not going to quote it. I don't think it's really worthwhile. If you want to look it up yourself, you can. I would just mention, and I guess we probably don't have time to get to 6. No, it's actually 7 is the one I really want to get into, and I didn't think I gave you 6 or 7 yet. Or maybe I gave you 6, but not 7. We'll continue on with 6 and 7. Let me just give you the NIV. So we say with confidence, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Because if I am unbound, right, by the temptations of the world, silver, sexual, whatever, then what can man do to me, right? In any case, thank you, Father, for your word. We pray that you look out this week. In your name we pray, amen.